Welcome into this New York Yankees feature report. I'm Brian Rabacs, that's Will Tallant, that's Lou Orlando, three New York Yankees beat reporters here. We've reached the middle of the season for the New York Yankees. A lot to get into, but kind of some unexpected news that we received on Sunday that leads us to where we are now. Dillon Lawson was fired, the hitting coach for the Yankees, dismissed of his duties on Sunday. The Yankees set out a full statement that it's been well documented that Brian Cashman, this is Brian Cashman talking, been reluctant in the past to make changes to our coaching staff in the middle of a season. I'm a big believer that successes and failures are collective efforts. However, I ultimately felt that a change was needed and that a new voice overseeing our hitting operations would give us the best chance to perform closer to our capabilities as we move forward into the second half of our season. So, guys, initially just want to throw out there and get your first thoughts because this is a big deal. Brian Cashman's been the general manager of the Yankees this is his 26th year and the first time that he's ever fired a coach mid-season. So what do you think?
Well, I definitely think it's a really big deal, just based on what you just said there, Brian. The fact that Brian Cashman has been the GM for nearly 30 years of this organization and has never made the move to let go of a manager or a coach in the middle of the season, that says a lot. That's a lot of trust in who you have running your operation for 162 games plus, because they made the playoffs a lot under Brian Cashman. But now to let one of them go and to really make a statement, I'd say, is quite alarming, because this team, they obviously they haven't been fantastic. They're only 7 games over 500. But I just go back 2 years, 2021, they were 41-41. In my eyes, I think they were even worse than they were that you could think that they are now then. And no changes were made. So now a change has been made. And who they bring in, it's Sean Casey. So we'll get into him in a little bit. But Dillon Lawson hadn't been with the organization for that long. This was his second season. I think his first full season as the hitting coach. They did like a co-hitting coach thing for last season. For my opinions on it, though, I'm not really too all up in arms, if you want to put it that way. It's just he let go of somebody that they just weren't, as it was said, not aligning with the philosophies of Aaron Boone, I guess, and Brian Cashman. So it was just an organizational change. Does it really change how the Yankees are going to do offensively? Probably not, but we'll just have to wait and see.
I think it might be a sign that behind closed doors, there's a little bit more panic and realization setting in that I think they're going to let on. I was actually joking with the security guard that works in our section at the press box. We were joking about the press conferences where you kind of know what you're going to get in the press conferences. Even if they're freaking out, you're really never going to get that sense. Aaron Boone's never going to come out and be like, yeah, we're in trouble or anything like that. But I think this move, considering that they've never made a move like this halfway through the season before, I think it tells you that they kind of realize that they're not in a great spot and they realize the situation that they're in. That I think maybe to me it's a little bit of hope that they realize that this situation is bad more so than they've been letting on, because fans were outraged by Hal's quotes. They're like, I don't understand why fans are reacting this way. And I think that was almost a month ago now. But you get quotes like that, and that kind of worries you that they don't realize why fans are upset. They don't realize why the situation might be bad. This move kind of goes in the other direction where you go, maybe they do realize that things need to change. I think I'm kind of with you. I don't know how much it changes, but it's also sometimes you need to throw fans a bone a little bit, make a change just to make a change. They use this analogy in hockey sometimes. Sometimes you pull the goaltender, you change goaltenders, even though it might not necessarily be the goalie's fault. Just to boost the other players out there, just to show trying something new. I think that's what this is more than anything else, but I think there is some interesting stuff philosophy-wise that maybe he did clash a little bit with Cashman.
Well, it's weird that fans have been dying for accountability for so long. They've not been pleased with the offensive output that they've been given, and they want accountability. Well, here's the accountability. Dillon Lawson has been dismissed. Now, I said in a tweet on Sunday that it felt scapegoat-ish, which it does, but I don't think that's necessarily how Brian Cashman operates. I mean, when you're in here for 26 years and you're just choosing to fire a coach in the middle of the season, now there was some real motive behind it. And when you look at the way the team is and how they've been performing, I don't know how you could be pleased with what they've been given. They rank, as of now, at the All-Star break, 28th in the league in batting average, 26th in on-base percentage, 21st in OPS, 29th in hits, 19th in runs scored. So they're either bottom 5 or bottom 10 in almost every important offensive category. And a lot of that is to be questioned. Like, is it the approach that the Yankees have had? Because there are stats that kind of back that up, that they're not swinging early in the counts and they're not swinging at pitches in the zone. They're dead last in swings in the zone out of all baseball. So
This is what makes the record so confusing, that we keep saying, like, the record doesn't feel like how the season feels. This
Definitely
feels
not.
like a sub 500 team. And you read those metrics and it's like they're kind of getting lucky. Like they're not, their metrics are a team that is below 500, a team that shouldn't really be in, playoff talks right now. But they are. I think it kind of came up on one-on-one. I kind of realized it when, like, Julia said the Mets will finish with a better record. And you looked at it and you go, the Yankees are 11 games over the Mets. How? Like, they don't really feel like they're that much better than what the Mets have been. I think, like, if these two teams were even at the All-Star break, I think I'd lean toward the Mets being better in the second half, unless the Yankees get judged back and can turn things around. That's what's so confusing, is like, how is this team even where they are right now with a lot of these hitting metrics? I'm not sure that I've ever seen. I mean, this offense can be streaky. We've seen, I think it's a Yankee thing where when the offense is bad, it's everyone that's bad. But I don't know that I've seen it this prolonged.
Well, I think that the issue mainly has been their veteran players are not performing at the level that they used to be, and those would be Rizzo, Stanton, Donaldson, and DJ LeMahieu. And it's when you look at those guys not performing, I don't know how much you can put that on the hitting coach rather than the individual player. So again, that's what bringing in the new hitting coach, Sean Casey, like, I don't know how much it's going to change things as a whole.
I
think that there's two sides here. I think this is a move for Brian Cashman. This is, like you were saying, it's not scapegoatish, even though it could look that way. This is how it would look that way. His offense that he's put out there isn't producing. Somebody has to go. Let's start with the hitting coach. I'm not saying that's what Brian Cashman did, but you have to look at it. They, over the last 6 years, I like using this 6-year window until the end of each season, starting in 2017, they have not improved. They've improved win total, but they have stayed the same for these 6 years. In some years, they've been worse. They cannot beat the Houston Astros. I'm not saying that this is who they're going to have to beat this year, but that's what it always boils down to. And you bring up a good point, Brian. The veterans that weren't on those teams like in the late 2010s, but were still very good baseball players at the time, a lot of those veteran guys are not what they used to be. So where does it lie with Brian Cashman in terms of we need different players? Because maybe it's not Lawson. Maybe it's just the guys that we're throwing out there each day just aren't yielding what we want them to yield. Even though you could say, this guy's got this much left in the tank. This guy's, who knows? That player may not even know. All you can say is that they have not been performing, so Dillon Lawson was the way to go. Now, with the philosophy thing, what I heard on John Boy, we were just talking about it, the philosophy seemed to be swing early, take late. That is a recipe for disaster. So let's just break it down like this. You get 2 off-speed pitches to start the at-bat. You swing at both of them. You're already down 0-2 because you're sitting fastball. You're not going to get it. Now you're going to take late. You can't take 0-2. You have to swing.
Protect.
You have to swing. So with that being the philosophy or the said philosophy, that just doesn't work. You just can't score runs that way. If the pitcher throws a strike, you got to swing no matter what whatever pitch.
That's why you don't want to get down to OT. You want to get into hitter's count so you have a little bit more out. You can take a pitch that's a strike, but it's not a hitter's pitch.
Yeah, take early and swing later. This is a very old-fashioned style of or approach at the plate. Take until you get a strike.
But I want to get into like philosophy a little bit more too, because Katie Sharp keeps tweeting out every time that a starting pitcher goes 7 innings against the Yankees, because it's now been 21 times the Yankees have let an opposing starting pitcher go 7 innings.
Wow.
It's the worst in baseball.
Whoa.
The second worst is the Oakland A's at 16.
That's not.
And
good
it's
company.
also, it's more in this half season than it was all of last year. Like, we can say individual players aren't performing, but that's a team thing where the entire team's not working at bats to get the pitcher out of the games. I can't tell you how many games I've gone to where when I type in the opposing starting pitcher's final line, yeah, they went 7 innings. Like that's
Jameson
that,
Tyone.
I think that's a philosophy thing, right? And then also I think and this is John Bay brought this up, a very damning thing for Dillon Lawson was the Volpe chicken parm whole situation. Like we're joking about it, but the fact that Austin Wells in one dinner was just like, hey, look at what you used to be doing. They made the switch, and now Volpe is one of the best hitters on this team the last few weeks. And for 2.5 months, this entire coaching staff and the hitting coach Dillon Lawson couldn't figure that out. It wasn't like, hey, let's go back and look at that. Like the way that story came out, that's a really tough look for the entire coaching staff.
That's more of an indictment of the entire coaching staff rather than Dillon Lawson. And it was a
but isn't that Dillon Lawson's job?
Isn't that? Yeah, that's his responsibility. That's who it's going to fall on.
One of the first things that you would do as a hitting coach, I know that he doesn't have a major league sample size, but go back and look at what you were doing when you were hitting well. Isn't that usually that's the first step of
really.
When you're in a slump, even DJ talked about going back and looking at his tape of what he did well when he was having those good years. It's that seems like a really basic thing.
Right.
To say to someone, to do to someone, and the fact that every single broadcast that I listened to for the first 2.5 months was Volpe's pulling off. I get it's a tough adjustment, but it's it really did feel there was no change behind the scenes because Volpe's at bats looked the same for so long.
And when we talk about philosophy and approach, some of the metrics, they don't look good at all, but it's also weird that everyone, particularly in 2021, harped on the Yankees for being a home run or strikeout team, all or nothing, essentially. But this year, when I was looking through it, that's not really the case. They've been scoring a lot of their runs on the home run. That still hasn't changed. But in terms of strikeouts, they have the 7th lowest strikeout percentage in baseball since Judge got hurt, and that's different from 2021 where
they've been bunting.
They had the 6th highest strikeout percentage in the league that year. So it's a different team where I think it's maybe the quality of the contact just hasn't been as good.
Well, also, did you hear that they openly admitted that they kind of changed and adjusted their hitting philosophy once Judge got hurt, and that kind of correlates with the bunting, but it's a lot more we've seen situations where it almost came in that bait or the ultimate 3-run go-ahead home run where he showed bunt. I think we'll never know whether or not that was a decoy or not, but they've been more aggressive in bunting and just trying to get one run because they realize the offense is a little anemic. But I think you could debate whether or not that's the way to go of playing it that conservative.
And when you talk about playing conservative and just kind of not necessarily going for the home run as much or that kind of philosophy, that could kind of transition us to the hitting coach that they hired, Sean Casey. And one thing that Sean Casey has that Dillon Lawson didn't, he has major league experience. 12 seasons, a 3-time All-Star, career .302 hitter. So he was very much known for slapping the ball over the field and was a good contact hitter, and also a teammate of Aaron Boone's from 1998 to 2003 with the Cincinnati Reds. So Brian Cashman talking about how he wanted to hire someone that's in lockstep with Aaron Boone in his philosophies. Well, he may have it here in Sean Casey.
That's what you need, too. You need to make sure that the guy that's in charge, being Aaron Boone, is on the same page as the coaches that he is working with.
And we don't know if he wasn't on the same page with Lawson.
No, yeah, not saying that
he
was.
No one knows what those conversations are like, but when you hire a guy like Casey, there's a relationship there, and it provides a good sense of yeah.
Exactly. It's there. There's a good sense of, trust and formality. Right. They know each other. Both of them played at the prime of their careers, both when they were doing the best that they have done in the major leagues together. Aaron Boone was the only time he was an All-Star was when he was in Cincinnati. Sean Casey was only an All-Star when he played for the Reds. They were at their peaks in their career. So obviously they were both doing something right at the same time. So I think it's a good hire for the Yankees for now. We'll see how it goes. Watching Sean Casey for years on MLB Network, this is the guy that really knows what he's talking about. I can go and watch so many different demos of different players that he's broken down just on TV, just with notes, but just kind of circling and highlighting just one clip of a player. And I love what he brings to the table. I'm not saying that's what he's going to be doing with the Yankees.
It might be one of the only times where a team hires a hitting coach and the entire public has ample footage of him being a hitting coach, essentially.
Right, exactly.
I think that's kind of cool.
You've already seen what you're probably going to get. what he's going to add is what he doesn't have on TV, but that Major League Baseball player aspect. He does add that on TV, but he's not in a clubhouse.
Right.
Now he's back in a clubhouse, a place where he really, really thrived. He thrives on TV, and he thrived in the clubhouse as well. I want to say something on the philosophy, though, that you were saying before, Brian, home run or bust, where Casey ties in well here. Hit a decent amount of home runs, and he also hit for a good average. I think the Yankees are a little too late to this party. They went home run or bust in the late 2010s, 2020. Didn't work out, obviously. Then they kind of shifted to what they have now. But everyone who was home run or bust then is not that now. Like, you have Giancarlo and you have Judge. In my opinion, Aaron Judge has matured as a hitter phenomenally since that boom or bust kind of motto that the Yankees had going on. So I just see them being a little too late to this party. This kind of shift should have happened like 4 years ago, but now it's like what they have now. So they have to work with it. They have to work with their aging bombers aging, and then they have to fill in the holes around them. These holes should have been filled in about 4 years ago, but it didn't happen. So I think bringing a guy who really diversifies the approach of hitting in Sean Casey, I think it's going to be a good thing for these guys in the Yankees clubhouse to really gravitate towards.
I'll go back to that. I think ultimately change is refreshing, especially for this team that the offense has looked so anemic the last few weeks and maybe even the last month, however long it's been since Judge's injury, right? And listen, I do think you're starting to see better at bats from Giancarlo already. I think he's gonna get to a point where we're gonna have fun conversations about Giancarlo Stanton being really good. I think everyone else I think, you know what, I will say I think Rizzo's gonna get back there too. The at bats are starting to get better. I think he's further away. Conversations about DJ Donaldson and whatnot, I think those are a little bit more up in the air, and maybe those don't get fixed. Maybe it's a situation where even with a good hitting coach that some guy, you're past your prime and that's over. I certainly hope for DJ that that's not the case. But I think at the end of the day, just having a new voice in there, coming out of the All-Star break, so you're already in a break where you have a chance to reset, and you can reset with a new voice at the helm of your hitting infrastructure. I think that more than anything else is a really hopeful sign for this Yankees team.
Well, also, I feel like you bring up DJ LeMahieu, and I feel like Sean Casey, knowing the type of hitter that he is, it's almost similar to what DJ was when he was at his best, a guy that could hit to all fields and was able to pop a homer.
Right, but I don't think that DJ's philosophy has changed.
No,
so I
don't think it ever
DJ's
has.
still trying to be that hitter, and is there going to be a mechanical adjustment that can unlock him, or is it simply that his body's falling apart on him?
Well, listen, we've seen what a mechanical adjustment can do for
Close
a
the
hitter on
stance,
the team.
baby.
Look at Volpe. So
It's
going to be
why don't you?
the Yankees not in a great spot offensively right now, but they made a change, and time will only tell as to whether or not it's going to impact them and if they're going to see any improvement. So we'll look at that. But I think we covered everything. Lawson fired, and they have a new hitting coach, and we'll just wait to see the second half of the season. So that'll conclude things here today with this New York Yankees feature report, courtesy of WFUV Sports.